What's going on there, guys? This is WoD from Margaritaville Guild here in the Alpha client for Warlords of Draenor. In this video, we're going to be talking all about the Blood Death Knight. A bunch of things have been removed, rolled up into new abilities, some crazy changes here in my opinion, and then also we have a couple new abilities I want to go over. So let's jump right into some of the removals or changes to your current abilities. Number one thing that has been removed is Blood Boil. So Blood Boil has actually been rolled up into Pestilence. So Pestilence costs 1 blood rune. It's going to deal that shadow damage and spread your disease to everybody within 10 yards. So I actually kind of like that one rolled into one. This next one totally surprised me. Had to take a double take. Was searching for my spellbook. I was like, there's got to be something I'm missing here. Heart Strike and Blood Strike have been removed. So you're no longer going to be using those as your blood rune primary ability. So those have been removed and you're replacing it with Soul Reaper. So super weird to me here. Took a while to get used to that, but you've got Soul Reaper, which deals a 65% weapon damage, and then it's going to deal way more if the target's below 35% health. And if you kill your target while the debuff's still on them, you're going to gain a bunch of haste. So still got that, but it kind of messes with your rotation a little bit here because Soul Reaper is on a 6-second cooldown, whereas before you could do Heart Strike or Blood Boil or whatever twice in a row. This one kind of messes with that rotation a little bit. So starting off, if you already got your disease on the target and all your runes are up, you got 2 Death Strikes, you've got 1 Soul Reaper, and then I've been casting 1 Pestilence for my other blood rune there. So kind of messing with that rotation. If everybody has some better ideas of how you would go about that, definitely let me know what you guys think, and I can try it out. So another one that's been removed that's kind of crazy to me is Rune Strike. That's been replaced with Death Coil. I liked Rune Strike, caused a lot of threat. There's nothing on the tooltip for Death Coil that it causes any threat. Maybe that won't be an issue. I guess it hasn't been too much of an issue. I mean, Death Knights definitely weren't causing as much as, let's say, Warriors, but maybe that just won't be an issue. So that's been replaced. So we got Death Coil there. Necrotic Strike has been removed entirely. We've got Raise Dead has been removed as well. We still have Raise Ally as our battle res, and then Blood Death Knights only have Army of the Dead still. So you've got Army of the Dead, but you do not have that Raise Dead ability. And there's some changes that happened to Death Pack to make up for not being able to Raise Dead. Blood Parasites have been removed. Blood Plague and Frost Fever have just been rolled up into your Icy Touch and then your Plague Strike. So as you can see here in the tooltip here, hey, I'm going to cause this damage, and then it also causes this disease. Same thing's true of Plague Strike. If you guys are in the alpha or if you get in the beta and it's still this way in the beta, if you don't see your mastery in the spellbook, don't be surprised. It is still here. I was like, what happened? No way they took away Blood Shield. But it's still there under enhancements and tells you what it does. They just don't have it as a passive ability in your spellbook, I guess, trying to simmer down there, Mr. Ice Maw. They just don't have it in the spellbook, I guess, taking up room. Changes to a few things for tanks in general, but for Death Knights, Blood DKs, for Dark Command, all taunts have been increased to 8-second cooldown, so kind of similar to what they did with Dispels this last expansion, increasing that to 8 seconds. They're doing with taunt. So obviously they're going to tune raid bosses to make up for that 8-second cooldown there, but just be aware of that. This is going to be pretty interesting, I think, within the once we go into heroic dungeons and whatnot and nobody's attacking the target that you want them to. That's going to be interesting. Luckily, as a Blood DK, you've got taunt as well as your death grip. There we go. Another ability that's changed, I think you guys are all aware of this one. Vengeance is now Resolve, whereas Vengeance was making you deal more damage based off of the damage dealt to you. Resolve actually increases your healing and absorption amount based off your stamina in addition to the damage that you've taken over the last 10 seconds. So I actually really like this one for Blood DKs. Anything that says increases shields and increases heals, I'm going to like for a Blood DK. So everyone has a base resolve, or all tanks have a base resolve. just from their stamina. So as you can see here, I've already got this buff just standing here, not in combat, and increases my healing and absorption done by 6% just based off my stamina. And then it'll tell me the damage I've taken in the last 10 seconds and how that will add to it. Another ability that's changed is Riposte. And Riposte, where are you? Probably under the R's here. So Riposte, where this currently is, hey, if I dodge something, if I parry something, then I'm going to gain some critical strike. Now is you gain parry equal to 100% of your critical strike from gear. So making a crit a viable stat on gear for Death Knights. Kind of like that change there. Scent of Blood, there was a change here. Really the only thing is what abilities cause it. It's now going to be caused by your Pestilence and your Soul Reaper, and casting those is going to increase your next death strike within 20 seconds. So we've got that. A couple new abilities here. One, this is a Blood DK only ability, totally makes sense. It's called Power of the Grave, and that's going to be the mastery buff similar to Blessing of Might that you could get. So we've got that, and then every spec now has a attunement. For Blood DKs, it's multi-strike. The attunements are one of the enhancements that we've got here. Every spec's going to have a different one. I mean, obviously some will share them, but for Blood DKs, this is the multi-strike ability. Multi-strike ability grants 2% chances to deliver extra attacks or heals for 30% of the normal value on each target. So definitely like that. Makes sense for Blood DKs, especially with that critical strike buff, dealing a high damage and then having this chance to have an additional blow based off that. I like that a lot. One other thing that has changed is our Rune Tap, how that works. So currently Rune Tap just heals you for 1 blood rune, and if you drop below, I'm trying to remember what that what it is that you have to drop below 30% of your maximum health, then your Blood Tap instantly gains a free charge. So that's still true, but instead of healing you, it's actually an absorption amount. So I wonder if it's probably not too high. Let's make the leap. Okay, so lost a bunch of health there. If I cast this, let's see here. As you can kind of see, there's an absorption amount here. So absorbs the next 16,000 damage in this case. So what this does now is it consumes a blood rune still, but it grants you an absorb shield equal to 30% of your missing health. So lower health, the bigger the shield. Kind of cool there. Now one thing, if I cast this again, so it's at 16,000 currently, cast it again once I'm at a higher health, I'm only at 12,000 now. So it doesn't add those two together if you cast them both. It's going to just replace the current one with the one that you just cast. So there's two charges. It's on a 30-second recharge. Keep in mind, you could have two charges of that, and if you drop below 30% health, you're going to gain a free charge in addition. So you could basically cast it 3 times in a row. So I like this ability. I think this makes a lot of sense rather than just healing you up, because you want to be healing yourself with Death Strike. And so getting a shield out, so let's say I've got a blood rune open, I don't have any of my other runes available, I can tap this, put a shield up real quick, and then as soon as I'm able to Death Strike, I can heal up for the amount there instead of trying to heal through Rune Tap. So I kind of like that. It's it makes sense to me. So we've got that. So let's go over the talents here real quick. Tier 1 talent that has been changed is the Rolling Blood talent is now Plague Bearer. Makes sense since Blood Boil is no longer a thing. So Plague Bearer I actually really like. What it does is every time you Death Coil or Frost Strike if you're in Frostspec, it's going to add 4 seconds to your existing duration for Frost Fever and Plague Strike. And this is also affects your Necrotic Plague, which we'll talk about once we get to the level 100 talents. But basically it just makes it part of my rotation is casting this Death Coil, and it's increasing the diseases. I say that I like this. It may become too mundane or boring of a rotation without having to keep track of my diseases, and so I may take one of the other ones just out of sheer boredom there. So if you like an easy rotation, though, that would probably definitely be the one you would want to cast. The second one, Anti-Magic Zone, has been just decreased in the amount that it protects part of your raid members a little bit. It's gone down to 20%. Then we have, that's all the same there. What else has changed? Let's go to Death Pact. So like I said before, Raised Dead ability has been removed, and so Death Pact obviously has to change because otherwise you wouldn't be able to use it. And so what this does now is, rather than taking health from your minion and healing you based off of his health and taking it away from him, this heals you for a flat 50% of your health. So cast it, you're going to gain 50% health instantly. However, there's a downside to this, which, again, this makes sense to me. It's called Death Pact. This causes Death Pact, the debuff, which absorbs incoming healing equal to 50% of the amount that you just healed for. So if you just healed for 20k and that was 50% of your health, you're now going to have this debuff that absorbs 10k healing before you can heal anymore, and that lasts for 15 seconds. So kind of strange there. I'm going to cast that just so you guys see there's this debuff here. So I just cast it for about 50k, and so now it's going to absorb healing up to 25k. Interesting ability. Seems a little awkward. Death Siphon still not viable to me. Costing 1 Death Rune just makes it unviable. If I was able to cast this for a Blood Rune, I could see it. They did increase the damage considerably here. It's at 330%, or the healing is at 335% of the damage dealt now. So increase the healing there. It still felt weak to me, in my opinion, in comparison to Death Pact. And then conversion, they've actually reduced down to 2% of maximum health every 1 second rather than the current 3%. So a couple changes there. Really, it just feels like, apart from Death Siphon, because I guess no one was ever using that, the other two have been nerfed a little bit, in my opinion. And then Death Siphon's just really not viable, still costing that Death Rune instead of a Blood Rune. One change to Desecrated Ground is that this now makes the Death Knight immune to roots and snares, in addition to effects that would make him lose control or her lose control. So pretty sweet there. Obviously mainly a PvP talent that they're trying to go for there, but I like that, so that maybe someone will actually use Desecrated Ground a little bit more often. So next up, let's go over the level 100 talents. Again, I mentioned this in one of my last videos. The level 100 talents have been taken away from us as far as being able to choose them. Hopefully we'll get that back and I can make a video of the graphics so that you guys can see that. I know everyone likes to be able to see the actual effect, but I do want to go over them, just what they do for right now. Necrotic Plague is the #1 spot for me right now. This one I feel like is definitely the most powerful. I have a feeling this is going to get nerfed. I hope not, but I think that's just the way it's going to happen. So Necrotic Plague basically replaces your Icy Touch or your Plague Strike or your Unholy Blight or anything that casts your diseases. It's going to replace it with this Shadow Frost damage called Necrotic Plague. So this is a powerful disease that deals a bunch of damage, Shadow Frost damage, per stack every 2 seconds for 30 seconds. So it's going to stack up, deal more and more damage. Each time it does damage, it gains 1 stack, and it also infects another nearby enemy within 8 yards if they're able to have diseases passed on to them. So, so basically you're spreading all kinds of diseases. It's stacking up. It's dealing a ton of damage. It replaces your Icy Touch or Plague Strike. So you've got both of those from just that one spell. And then you also, on top of all that, you gain 5 runic power whenever a target infected with Necrotic Plague attempts to attack you. So I think maybe attempts, just talking about, you know, if they try to attack you and that you dodge, possibly. So if they're trying to attack you, you're gaining a runic power. So dealing a bunch of damage, automatically spreading all your diseases, and gaining a ton of runic power. Win, win, win to me. So I really like that one. Defile is going to replace your Death and Decay. So you're going to lay it down just the same. So you defile the ground, and as long as there's an enemy within that area, every 1 second, as long as somebody's standing there, it's going to deal damage, and then it's going to grow both in damage and area effect. Again, as long as somebody's there. If nobody's there, it's not going to grow. So if you've got a more stationary fight, then I could see this viable as a PvE talent for blood decays for the second part of it, which is enemies standing in your defile deal 10% less damage to you. So on a 30-second cooldown, lasts for 10 seconds. So you got about a 33% uptime on the raid bosses or trash or whatever, dealing 10% less damage to you, which I could see as being pretty sweet. However, I still just think Necrotic Plague kind of overshadows anything that you get with Defile. The last one is very interesting, however, don't love it. It's called Breath of Cindergrosa. It costs 15 runic power to activate, and then an additional 15 runic power per second after that to continue channeling that. So it deals Shadow Frost damage every 1 second to all enemies in a cone in front of you within 12 yards, and then it puts a debuff on them called Cindergosa. And so this is canceled. You can cancel this ability, or whenever you run out of runic power, it's going to cancel, which you're going to run out pretty fast when it's causing 15 runic power per second. And the debuff is interesting to me. So anyone who has this debuff on you and then deals spell damage to you makes you heal for 5% of that spell damage afflicted by those. So by those enemies. So seems really, really, really dependent on, like, everything has to line up perfectly. Like, you've got to have the runic power to cast this. It's got to have the debuff remain on. There's only 6-second debuff, so it's not a very long time. And they've got to deal a bunch of spell damage to you for you to get healed back for just 5%. So it's so situational to me. It does deal quite a bit of damage, but I don't see it as being one of the talents that I'm going to really choose unless they make some changes there. So out of all of those, like I said, Necrotic Plague seems the most powerful to me. It just deals a ton of damage, and I like the auto spread of the diseases on top of me possibly spreading diseases with Pestilence. Just going to be damage, diseases flying everywhere. So that's about it, guys. That's the Blood Death Knight. Hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like at the bottom and subscribe. I'm going to be adding more videos constantly throughout the alpha and beta. So definitely would love for you guys to see that as soon as I come out with new videos. Until then, this is WoD from Margaritaville Guild, and I will see you guys next time.